Hello again, welcome to Biochem Bits, online biochemistry course, and this is biochemistry class brought to you in bits. So please do like and subscribe to this channel to receive more on biochemistry topics that may interest you. And here we try to chat about biochemistry in its most simplest form. And today I'll be talking about properties of water and its role in biological systems and what makes water that very much important to us and to even to our biological systems are some of the things that we'll be discussing during the course of this interaction. And prevalence of water on Earth is has been well talked about. Water covers about 71% of the Earth's surface, and even our system, our body, has about 60% components of water. Let's first talk about something that is very paramount, very common to all of us. Even if you're not a scientist, you know that water is a universal solvent. Why do we say water is a universal solvent? One of the key things why it has been well stated that water is a universal solvent is that it has the capability to dissolve most substances well more than any other liquid in the world, and this is due to its polar nature and its ability to form hydrogen bonding with other components of those substances, and it can dissolve it can form also some form of covalent bonds with some covalent compounds, and there are some properties that has made water to be able to function as a universal solvent, and these include high melting point, high boiling point, and high surface tension property, as well as an unusually high dielectric constant. And these are some of the things that makes it to be unique. For example, water in its solid state has lesser density, but it has a negative volume when it is melting, and this is against the norm. And so there are some things we call the anomalous expansion of water, and I think you might still be able to recall some of those things in your physics or elementary physics class. All these anomalous properties as what are things that made water to be able to function in cellular processes, in transport medium, in temperature regulation, in structural support, and even in climate regulation. So water has a tetrahedral shape, and the tetrahedrality is based on the electrostatic effects that result between the positively charged non-bonding hydrogen ion. And so water in its entirety is capable of forming at least 4 hydrogen bonds as a result of the partially negative oxygen at the center that is capable of also connecting to the partially positive hydrogen of another water molecule. And looking at the equation of reaction, 2 atoms of hydrogen with 1 atom of oxygen will give us water. And to balance the equation, we have 1 molecule of hydrogen and 1 molecule of oxygen giving us 1 molecule of water. That's 2H2O plus, 2H2 plus O2 giving us 2H2O. Now, the oxygen pulls electron from the from the hydrogen ion, gaining this partial charge, while hydrogen gains the positive charge as a result of it's donating this electron. And the 3 fundamental forces that are at work aside the covalent bond that exists between the oxygen and the hydrogen primarily in every unit of water include the ionic bond, the electrostatic interaction, that's also what we call the ionic bond, and also the hydrogen bond and the van der Waals forces. The hydrogen bond primarily is weaker than the covalent bond, which is the bond between the oxygen and the hydrogen, and but stronger than the van der Waals forces that now forms, which is responsible for the entire network of hydrogen that now forms between the water molecule interaction. And this are some of the things that are responsible for its ability to create the 3D network, and also its significance in influencing the properties or reactions in biological systems. So, and I think this is just pretty much it based on the dipole moment force. Water being a universal solvent has been linked to the Brownian motion. And I don't know if you can recall the Brownian motion in your physics during the secondary school or during your high school days. Brownian motion is basically responsible for initiating many biochemical interaction. And in this context of cell, water is most common medium for the thermal noise around Brownian motion. And what water does is that it just stands as if it's a lubricant that facilitates the flow of the energy, and also the transfer or the transformation of information through the motion. So one other very important thing is the ionic and the ionic nature of water, which makes it to be able to surround and also separate ion. So when it dissolves, it leads to the separation of ion, and that is the principle of this dissolution. It also has this polar nature, where we have the hydrogen bonding with polar region, and so it therefore leads to the disengagement and the breaking of bonds, because it is the hydrogen bond is somewhat very weak, so it's easy to quickly break and rejoin within seconds. Now, the hydrophobic and hydrophilic nature of water is also something that drives the formation of most biological structures. As we'll say, for example, in membrane, we have the hydrophilic one, the ones that are water hating, that's hydrophobic. They are congealed, they cluster around and move closer to the cell, and therefore they are forced to be bonded. And the ones that are water loving are exposed. There are the peripheral part, and are exposed and are open to reception, to interact with water. Now, formation of the shell layer of water molecule surrounding dissolved particle is the basis for the dissolution, or the mechanism of dissolution that we see, and therefore this maintains this some sort of ionic effect around the reactivity of some biological reactions, for example, the enzyme substrate interaction and the likes. We'll talk a bit more about it, but before I leave this slide, I would just like to say that the hydrophobic effect refers to when you have some entropy-driven aggregation of non-polar molecules in an aqueous solution that occurs in such a way that it minimizes the ordering of water molecule with which it wants to be in contact with. Now, one of the things that I should just also quickly mention before I leave this slide is that this water being a universal solvent, and water as a solvent, has promoted the transport in cytoplasm, blood, its function in the transport of nutrients, hormone, and even waste, and also facilitate the osmosis and diffusion across membranes, which is the basis of most movement and biological interactions within a cell, and even cell-to-cell interaction. And it enables ion gradient for energy production and signaling. For example, in neurotransmitter signaling, which you will later know depending on what field you're interested in. And also the electron transport chain, where we have ATP synthesis. Now, I'd like to talk about the acid-base properties of water, which is very, very important too, and is crucial to its role in biological system. Just briefly, I'm touching on this. Water's acid-base property is fundamental, and when water self-ionizes, it forms the hydroxonium ion and also the hydroxyl ion, and this is somewhat a delicate balance, and this forms the basis for the pH scale that we see today and we talk about even in other substances. And pH scale is crucial to the body, as most cellular processes occurs within a narrow pH range. A slight change in the pH of a system of our system can lead to so many downstream effects that we can't even be talking about here. So that is why maintaining the right pH scale or the right pH range is very, very important in every cellular processes. And so water has unique ability to act both as an acid and as a base. I mean, its amphoteric nature allows it to be able to participate in most biological reactions, and this property is very critical in maintaining the pH or the homeostasis of every living organism, both in plants and in animal or whatever organism we're talking about. Now, I'll also like to further talk about its ability to function as a buffer. Now, buffers are very essential in maintaining the optimal pH in blood, in cytoplasm, and even other biological fluid like our synovial fluid and the likes, even the vaginal fluid. Let me just touch on that a bit. So understanding these acid-base properties is very important, and that is one of the reasons why we are talking about it. That some of the key biological buffers that water has joined, or water has been able to help maintain in satisfying the buffering system of our body are the bicarbonate, the phosphate, and even protein. And maintaining the pH of the system is very, very critical. I'll touch on this just very briefly, and it goes along with the way most biological process occurs around 6 to 8 pH, 6 to 8, which is very close to the neutral point. Anything beyond that, then the body is not functioning the way it's meant to function. And there's some system that prefers to be in the acidic region. So that is why for every biological process, the specific need is maintained, and water plays a crucial role in maintaining this pH. Now, I would like to also touch on the crucial role in temperature regulation, the thermal regulation, talking about water playing a very significant role in vasodilation and vasoconstriction through the blood circulation and also through sweating. That is what we can really relate with. It stabilizes the internal body temperature by just maintaining some heating and also cooling. And because water is so unique that it absorbs or releases more heat without a very sharp change in the temperature, it makes it looks more unique. Now, water acts as a reactant and also as a product of metabolism when there are some reactions that are proceeding as a result of it. So water is not just the passive medium for biological reaction, it also acts as an active participant for most cellular processes. For example, as I mentioned earlier, the metabolism and also in digestion, it enables hydrolysis to occur, breaking down complex molecules, and also participating in some biosynthetic processes by condensation. We have water also participating. When you see some of those reactions, you have water coming in to condense with to be able to get the final product. Furthermore, I will also like to mention that water is essential in enzyme catalysis, with enzyme identifying its substrate, where water either acts as a proton donor or a proton acceptor, and this facilitates this binding, this substrate binding. I'll talk more about it in the next slide. And virtually every cellular function has to do with this substrate binding, substrate recognition, and metabolic processes. Now, one very important process that also occurs with water in the cellular system and is also very critical is osmosis. And osmosis is the movement of water across semi-permeable membrane. We're familiar with that in our elementary biology, and is very, very crucial to cell function and its survival, driven mostly by the solute concentration, depending on what side it is, and also creating some sort of osmotic pressure which is required for the rigidity or the rigidity in cell membrane and also in cell structure. Now, I have been able to put up some of this solution as a result of osmosis or osmotic balance. For example, we have the hypotonic, the isotonic, and hypertonic, which we are all familiar with. Just to touch on it, when it is hypertonic, based on how high the solute concentration is relative to the cell, and isotonic when there is a balance. These concepts are very crucial for understanding how the cell maintains its shape, because when it is hypertonic, we know what happens when it is hypotonic. Then there is some sort of swelling. When hypotonic, there's some sort of shrinkage, and then depending on the reaction around that time. So organisms have developed various osmoregulatory mechanisms to maintain this water balance, because without it, that's what determines what shape the cell will take per time, from cellular ion pump to specialized organs, and also some very complex organismal shape. Now, for example, like Hydra. Understanding osmosis as a process has helped most medical implications. For example, to maintain proper osmotic balance can help prevent some cell damage. And binding is also very fundamental to most biological systems. And for binding to occur, there is need for molecular recognition, and water plays key role in molecular recognition. And I want us to know that the fact that water molecules are very much present in most experimental interface further confirms how indispensable water is to biomolecular recognition and also self-assembly. Water is capable of conferring high level of adaptability to the surfaces of um, to binding surfaces, and it also helps to produce or promote specificity and increase affinity of that interaction so that this reaction can overcome the activation energy and then proceed. For example, in protein ligand interaction, water function as an extension of the protein structure, allowing a varied ligand to be accommodated in such a way that the binding site has an increased affinity and for the specific ligand which is of interest. And so this water molecule in this case has an energy gain from the water mediated contact, which is far greater than the entropic cost that may result from the immobilization. And so protein-protein interaction and also protein-DNA interaction, which are common biomolecular associations, also get stabilized in the presence of water, and this is because of the hydrophobicity or the hydrophobic effect that results from the screening away from water, the charge of repulsion in that sense. So I believe that some of this, and I think that one of the things that you take out of the slide is that the principle of biorecognition is being mediated in the presence of water, and these are due to the hydration forces, which is responsible for the stabilization and the packing. Now, one other very fundamental effect or function of water, its ability to stabilize the nucleic acid structure. Hydrogen bonds between the base pairs are capable of stabilizing the double helix structure, which keeps the coding information, the base sequence inside the helix, away from potential harmful reactions or anything that could get some of this information to be disrupted. So the fact that water is able to form the hydration shell around DNA and RNA molecule helps it to stabilize the structure. And so the negatively charged phosphate backbone, as you can see on the slide, is capable of forming or interacting strongly with water molecules. And when it interacts with water molecule, this hydrogen bonding between those base pairs then helps to maintain the helical structure. For example, in the cell nucleus, the aqueous environment allows the dynamic nature of DNA to support the replication and also the transcription processes, and also the ability of waters to shield this electrostatic interaction will then further propagate or help to synchronize the neutrality of or the repulsion of some of these negatively charged phosphate groups. This then allow the DNA strands to come together and form the iconic double helix structure, which is quite stable. And I think we've come to the end of the course today, and please do like and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you find it helpful. Thank you.